Peace. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to finish off the series of The Mastery of the Self by Miguel Ruiz Jr. Um, I'm going to finish up. I don't know how many chapters, but I just finished reading it, and this is a really good book. And I'm glad you are here sharing this. And if you please like, subscribe, and share the video. I do have a playlist for the Mastery of the Self. It's about 5 videos, and I'm breaking down certain chapters in order of the book. Right now, we're going over the master. A master of self cultivates the practice of awareness, and in so doing is conscious of choices he or she makes so that they are reflective of his or her authentic self. The definition in the book, the awareness is the process of focusing your attention on your body, your mind, and your surroundings in the present moment. Awareness is a unique practice because in addition to paying attention to what is happening in the external world, you also watch what is happening inside your mind as well, noticing which thoughts arise and tracing their origins. The practice of self-awareness is a cornerstone of the mastery of self, as it is the primary way you learn about yourself, your likes, your dislikes, your domestication, and your attachments. Awareness is a conscious communion with yourself and the environment that surrounds you. So being aware is just paying attention to, it's just being a master of yourself by paying attention to your thoughts and being aware of your feelings, of those, how those thoughts are making you feel. So we're going on to chapter 7, which is multiple masks. And in this book, he describes the multiple masks as the identities we have given ourselves and others put on us, as well as we put on others. So it's basically your identity, whether it's a parent, a teacher, a friend. You're putting on these masks as you interact with different people. And in order to master yourself, you have to be aware that all of these first are masks, and it's how we operate inside of the dream of the planet and inside of the dream of our own individual dream. And I also like this book because it's always describing this life or this realm we're in as a dream and as multiple dreams as we're interacting with others inside their dream. This brings us to an important point. A part of mastery of self is being able to detach from any identity you have acquired in the dream of the planet. You don't have to attach yourself to any of these masks or identities because at the end of the day, you are your authentic self, which is none of this. As a master of self, you recognize this, and it allows you to respect the projection of others, especially when doing so is helpful. This is called shape-shifting. When you do hold on to an identity because of a relationship or the position that you're in, there's going to be times you have to shift into an identity to fit in a particular situation, which we all do all the time. But being aware, you're able to step back and know that you're shifting for this particular situation. I want to go in it. So, a master of self sees the mask as a tool and uses the tool effectively when it is helpful to do so. Because she doesn't mind or doesn't internalize the identity associated with any mask, she is able to remove it easily and return to her authentic self when the time for the mask is over. This is why I like this book, because as we conclude our chapter on mask, let us remember a core teaching introduced earlier in the book. The world around us is virtual. It is all a dream. And in my family's Toltec tradition, we absolutely insist on creating enjoyable experiences in the dream. In other words, we like to have fun. Doing so often involves setting goals to create something beautiful or to accomplish something special. But as you will see in the next chapter on goal setting, it is important that we do so with awareness. Otherwise, we can quickly turn our personal dream into a nightmare. So yeah, this next chapter, chapter 8, is going into goal setting, which is a good thing, but often we will attach ourselves to the outcome of our goals instead of enjoying the moment and whatever the journey is taking us. It's not always going to be what we visualize our outcome to be. So as soon as you have an attachment to the outcome of your efforts, you've subjected yourself to conditional love. This can happen in any area of your life. So then we're placing conditions on our love for the goal or the goal in itself, and we're only feeling that we're successful if the goal ends in this certain way. As we all sometimes become attached to our success, and we attach our success to the outcome of our goal, when it's basically the success is us even achieving or attempting to achieve that certain particular goal. By tying your self-love and self-acceptance to a goal, your happiness corresponds to its achievement. When you reach your goal, your self-esteem rises temporarily. When you don't, you think less of yourself. This is using goal setting as a tool for self-domestication, as you have chosen to conditionally love yourself based on the success or failure of attaining this goal. Now the expectation of what should be controls you. And the process looks like this. You decide that the person you are is not enough, so you set a goal to achieve something. You implicitly make an agreement with yourself that you will only be worthy of your own love if the goal is obtained. If you don't meet the goal, you judge yourself accordingly. If you do not meet the goal, your inner judge raises the bar. That is the trap that the master of self avoids. And the way to do so is by loving yourself unconditionally, seeing that you are already perfect in this moment, and there is no goal you need to obtain to be worthy of your own love. Your self-worth and self-acceptance become tied to the outcome of your achievement. As a master of self, the way out is to remind yourself that you are perfect in this moment and you do not need to achieve anything in order to be complete. Striving to achieve from a place of fear or lack creates a personal dream clouded in negativity. And when other people judge your progress or your abilities, you know that this is a reflection of their dream, not yours. So yeah, I basically went over the goals and how we can master ourselves by being more aware and not attaching ourselves to the outcome. This book is also, at every chapter there's little practices, and I wanted to go over this one. I like this one. So in the Toltec tradition, we recognize that the mind is a powerful tool for helping you achieve your goals. Here is an exercise that can help you harness the power of your mind and focus your intent on creating what you want. Do this exercise daily, preferably in the morning as you work toward a goal. Find a quiet place to sit for a few minutes. Close your eyes and consciously send unconditional love to yourself. Feel gratitude for being alive in the present moment. Feel gratitude for your body and mind, and for they are what allow you to experience the dream of the planet. Next, turn your thoughts to the goal that you are working toward. Envision yourself achieving this goal and concentrate on the feelings of gratitude for having done so. The key here is to feel gratitude as if the goal has already been achieved, as doing so makes this experience real in your mind. After a few minutes of focusing your intent on gratitude for already having achieved your goal, bring your awareness back to the present moment. Open your eyes and go out and enjoy the process of working towards your goal. I liked this particular practice because it's basically the law of assumption. And that is basically assuming you're already who you want, or your goal is already, you're that person, you're already living in that. So this is basically, I've went over it. If you go into my playlist, there's a whole law of assumption. And so I go over that a lot on this channel. There is always enough of whatever you need in this moment. A master of self finds the inner strength to embrace this principle with an open heart. As a master of self, you are adept to identifying the situations that are beyond your control. And in those instances, you trust and surrender to whatever the moment brings, because you know you will receive exactly what you need. Success is the natural consequence of doing something you love to do. So it's not always the outcome of doing what you love to do. It's that you're doing what you love to do, which is success. This goes into being how comparing and competition can bring up the wrong type of emotions and feelings. And as a master of self, you know that on the deepest level, everything you need is already inside of you. As a master of self, you are forging your own path, creating your own journey to your own inner evolution. When you realize that there is no need to work so hard to become someone you think you should be, because you already are perfectly yourself, the I am in the experience of life, not a symbol or model that you have to attain. In this way, the inner war is over again and again and again. As a master of self, peace reigns. I like this. This is another practice, and I like this one too, so I'm going to go over it before I read in the outro of the book. This is called the mudita, and in the Buddhist tradition, there is a concept known as mudita, or sympathetic joy, which is the practice of having joy in the accomplishments, achievements, and good fortune of others. This virtue can be easy to cultivate when others are members of your family or close friends, but it is more difficult once you move outside your inner circle. For this exercise, think of a situation where someone else received something that you wanted for yourself. Perhaps this was promotion at work, an award, a material object, etc. Once you have the situation and the person in mind, repeat the following statement out loud 3 times. I am grateful that whoever received the good I wanted for myself. And you repeat that 3 times. I think this is a good exercise. It helps you release like a little bit of feeling of resentment or jealousy, and just helping you be happy for someone else's success, even if it is the same thing you wanted for yourself. So this is the outro of the book, and this really is a summary of everything we went over and how you can recognize that you are entering to be a master of yourself, practicing to be a master of self, or already in the process of being self-master. Throughout this book, you have learned various ways to identify and release your domestications and attachments. You've learned how doing so can help silence the negative self-talk that produces suffering in your personal dream and replace it with unconditional self-love and self-acceptance. When you bring this spirit of unconditional love to your interactions with others in the dream of the planet, you see them through the eyes of compassion, and you respect their choices even if they differ from yours. Through the power of forgiveness, you are able to move past the harm caused by others and see that they were doing the best they could at the time. In these ways, you are doing your part to create harmony in the dream of the planet. You have also learned about the power of masks and the art of shape-shifting, and how you can shift for the benefit of another as long as it doesn't violate your personal truth. You are able to set goals that are consistent with what you really want, and you love yourself throughout the process of working to achieve them. In the end, you know that you are already perfect and complete, more than enough, and you will always receive exactly what you need in every moment. While you are grateful for the lessons you have learned from others and now have the confidence to walk your own path because you know that everything you need is already inside of you. Because you recognize the suffering that domestication and attachment cause in yourself and others, you no longer try to control those around you with anger, guilt, or sadness in order to force them to believe or act the way you think they should. You respect everyone's ability to make their own decisions, which means you don't project onto them a mask of who you think they should be. Because you accept yourself for who you are now able to accept every other person for who they are. This is the dream that we are co-creating. We are learning from each other and respecting every person's individual perspective. No one is more important than anyone else. Engaging from this place of mutual respect for all beings makes it the best world possible. In those rare moments when you do slide and fall into the trap of a master of self, you are able to regain your awareness and recover quickly. Rather than making things worse by lashing out, being defensive, or otherwise falling into chaos and joining the drama of the party, you now have the tools to regain your footing. Through the power of awareness, buoyed by unconditional self-love, you know that you are doing the best you can at every moment. You no longer need to distort the world around you to fit your perception. You know who you are, and as a result, you can act and speak with complete confidence and without apology. Thus, your word becomes impeccable because you are engaging others with awareness and unconditional love. You have confidence that each action you take will be perfect in the moment in all of these ways, and you have learned how to become a master of self. Forgiveness for the dream of the planet. We think of an act of forgiveness as almost always in reference to people we know or those who have affected us personally. However, there is another type of forgiveness that is often overlooked, and that is forgiveness for the suffering that occurs in the dream of the planet. To understand this type of suffering, let's look more closely at two components that make up the dream of the planet. First, there is the physical world of matter with its oceans, continents, winds, and shifting climates, where change is constant with every action. This is the phenomenal realm, or the world that can be seen and felt. Second, there is the world of human agreements, and these agreements are what give meaning to the material world. This is the world that is created in our minds and is based on our perceptions. The world of agreements is unseen, even though what manifests from these agreements appears in the physical world. While the physical world appears to move on its own, the world of human agreements, by definition, requires our participation. Let's look at two important events that emphasize the difference. The first happened on December 26, 2004, when a tsunami in the Indian Ocean killed thousands of people in an instant. It was a tragic loss of life, but it was understood as something that happened via the movement of the earth without any human agreement. While the outcome is heartbreaking, there is no one to blame for an event like this. Compare that to another event that occurred 3 years earlier on September 11, 2001 in the United States. This also resulted in a catastrophic loss of human life, but the cause was dramatically different in this case. The impetus was a human agreement. Tragically, many people lost their lives because one group felt that it needed to subjugate the world to its vision of virtue with violence. In this type of tragedy, a sense of blame is placed on the perpetrators. While it's perfectly understandable to be saddened and enraged over events such as these, and some of you reading this may even have been personally affected by one or both of these examples, When that sadness overtakes us, we lose our perspective in the dream, and debilitating grief, depression, and in latter example, a desire for revenge can set in. In either case, getting lost in the sadness can trigger us to take negative attitude toward the world, saying or thinking things like there is no use to trying to improve the world, or the world is a terrible place. If you take this route, the fog has crept back in as you are now living in your imagination, filled with fear and despair, and the dream of the planet has become a nightmare. You are taking the events of the world personally and letting them define you and your thinking. You have forgotten that during these tragedies, many people stood up to help victims and survivors. Communities came together to heal one another. While it's completely normal that both of these tragedies would evoke sadness, there comes a time when we move past the loss and choose to forgive the world for these events. You do so because holding on to the negative emotions generated by these events keeps you from evolving. That does not mean you forget what happened. It means that you don't want events like these to cloud your awareness and keep you trapped in the fog, unable to see the beauty that is all around you, and keep you from co-creating the dream. Furthermore, a master of self understands that those who commit acts of violence, including gang members, terrorists, abusers, manipulators, and others, are actually the most domesticated and attached people in the dream of the planet, since they have lost their ability to see humanity of another living being. They are blackout drunk at the party, blinded by their belief system. They are so completely controlled by ideas that they can no longer see the humanity of their brothers and sisters. To be clear, forgiveness does not mean apathy. Forgiveness in this context means that in order to create a harmonious dream of the planet, you understand that you are only responsible for you. You choose to let go of the anger and hurt in order to bring peace to your personal dream. And in that way, you actually help the dream of the planet, so that one day tragedies that occur as a result of human violence can be found only in history books. For a master of self, peace comes with forgiveness by letting go of any poison that you're holding on to. If you let that poison drown you, then you become part of that cycle that has brought suffering into the world. To forgive the dream of the planet for the darkness is to forgive any place of darkness within others. Even when others make a choice to construct the dream of the planet by creating a nightmare, you know how to end the nightmare within yourself. Every time you choose to forgive, you heal the infected wound that causes you to cower in fear and hide behind anger. Choosing to act from a place of love rather than fear will always bring harmony to the present moment, regardless of what is happening in the dream. Forgiveness is an act of love, so in times of global difficulty, I will say to myself, I choose to forgive, I choose to engage, I choose to take action, I choose to use my voice for healing, I choose to express the power of my intent through unconditional love. I am a co-creator of the dream of the planet, and I choose to end the cycle of conditional love. I do this and I am letting peace begin with me. This is the mastery of self in action, and this is my wish and hope for you. This is the end of the book, The Mastery of Self. Thank you.